Hello there, welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk and day 10 of my August Alphabet Challenge. Today I am reviewing the remake of Day of the Jackal. This one is simply called The Jackal. It stars Bruce Willis and Richard Gere. I watched a bit of this film way back when, and for some bizarre reason I thought I'd seen a lot more of it. But I remember thinking, oh, this is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. I never went back to it. But I saw Day of the Jackal a couple of years back and thought that was a really good film. And then it kind of piqued my interest again. It's to go back and watch this remake. So I bought it cheap on DVD from a charity shop, and it's been stuck on my shelves ever since. So yeah, you voted for The Jackal. It won the vote, so I've watched it. I gotta say, this film is nowhere near as bad as I remember it being, and I also clearly hadn't watched anywhere near as much of it as I thought I had. Now I will still say that Richard Gere's accent is a bit dodgy. Half the time I expect him to say "top of the morning" to you, and where's my lucky charms? It's proper. Yeah, it's a cringy accent, but the performance itself is pretty good, which I know probably sounds like a contradiction, but I think there's different layers to a performance. There's more than just the accent. I think if you can get past the accent and hone in on the other things he's doing, physically speaking, emotionally speaking, then I think he does actually give a pretty good performance. And to be honest, he certainly does a better Irish accent than I could do. Even so, I just don't quite understand why they don't cast someone like, say, Liam Neeson. I think Liam Neeson would have been perfect in this role, but hey ho, they cast Richard Gere. So he does all right, but like I say, that accent, I spend a lot of the film kind of tuning in and out with my ears, just thinking, oh, is he got it? Is he nailing it? Is he not? And you shouldn't be doing that, really. You should, yeah, it shouldn't be a concern. But there you go. Bruce Willis as well. So Bruce Willis plays the Jackal, who's this hitman. He's been hired to essentially take revenge for these Russian mobsters, and they hire him to go and kill someone. We don't really know who. We assume it's the president, and so he's hired to go and kill the president of the United States, and the FBI. Well, actually, not the president of the United States. It's the man in charge of the FBI. I should say that. So the director of the FBI. The FBI hires Richard Gere's character, who's this Irish terrorist. Again, say that in the loosest of terms because it is explored in the film. Is he really a terrorist or was he a man? Yeah, whatever. It's there in the film, but they hire him to help them track this guy down because he's the only one who has ever seen him. Simple enough plot. It's a remake, as I say. Now, I really did quite like the original, and I think if you've seen the original, it does take a lot from that film. It must be said that the mechanics of the plot, the beats of the plot are all here. Slightly changed, slightly tweaked here and there, but it is essentially the same film, just brought into the modern day. Now, there was a big chunk that was cut out of this one, which they did actually shoot. They shot it. It was all there, but in order to bring the film's running time down, they cut it out. Now, I got to say, I didn't miss that. It did. Having watched it and perfectly understood the movie, and then seeing on the special features that, oh yeah, they did actually shoot that and took it out, it kind of says to me that, well, then it wasn't needed. It didn't really add anything to the overall film, so it's probably a good job they cut it out. And it kind of makes me want to go back now to the original and watch that again and cut the same bits out and see if that film would work in the same way. Bruce Willis, as I was about to say, he plays the Jackal, and again, it's another performance where, like, The start of the film, I'm a bit, oh dear, Bruce Willis is really woefully miscast in this role. It takes me a while, or I should say, it takes him a while to get into it. But there are quite a few moments in this film, I would say, where Bruce Willis does something pretty special, I'd say, for him. You know, like he's never been known as the greatest actor in the world. He's a bit of an action man. You know, he has a particular type of role that he kind of sticks to. Every so often, he ventures outside of that. You know, you think 12 Monkeys, you think Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, and usually when he does that, when he finds the right director to do that with, he can excel. He can show that he has more in his repertoire. And I feel like this film is a kind of a mix of the two. So first like 20 minutes of him is kind of like, I think he's been miscast. But as the film goes on, as he's asked to do more stuff, and you see that he commits himself as an actor, he isn't just coasting. I think he acquits himself well eventually. So yeah, I mean, like I say, it's a mixed bag for him, but it's kind of 50-50. There's half of him in this film I think he does a really good job with. The standout for me is Diane Venora, who plays this Russian agent. She's a government agent. She's again, the accent with her, I was never kind of tuning in and out. I can tell she wasn't Russian, but it wasn't to the point where it's like, oh, that's off there. It's just, no, that's an acceptable Russian accent. And the performance kind of just brought me into her character, and I really liked her character. She's a bit of a badass, you know. She's kind of no qualms about jumping into action, throwing herself in front of a bullet, and just, yeah, getting down and dirty with the guys and giving as good as she gets. So the whole story really kicks off because she gets into confrontation, shall we say, with these Russian mobsters, and because she's willing to pull the trigger, that leads to to this whole thing kicking off. But she's well and truly justified. You know, she's not just someone who's trigger happy or anything like that. She's just a genuinely good agent who's willing to do what it takes to get the job done. And I like her. I like the performance by Venora. It's really bizarre seeing J.K. Simmons here. Actually, he's got a few pounds on him. This is not the same guy from Whiplash. You know, back in his younger days, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, he was rotund, shall we say. But he certainly leaned himself out. You know, you look at him in Whiplash. He's quite a formidable force in that film. You can tell he's been working out. Yeah, here he looks like he needs to lay off the pies. But it's always, I don't know, I always find it amusing when you watch an older film and an actor who's really big now and really popular and you know, is an Oscar winner, it just suddenly pops up in it and you're like, whoa. So yeah, that kind of made me chuckle a bit. But yeah, he looks better now than he did back then. Speaking of actors popping up from the past, Jack Black appears in this film as well. He's playing pretty much what you'd expect Jack Black to play. You know, he's very, that kind of slacker, lazy kind of t-shirt and shorts, druggy type. Yeah, he's a bit of a whiz kid when it comes to making things, mechanics and stuff, and the Jackal goes to him to make this gun base that he needs to pull off his job. And yeah, it's a very Jack Black kind of role. You know, I think Jack Black's done quite a few things over the years since, where he's stepped out of his comfort zone or he's done something a bit different. You know, I think of the Richard Linklater film that he made, the name of which escapes me right now, but yeah, I think he can act. But there was definitely a long period, right through School of Rock and beyond, where this seemed to be the guy he played. So in the film, there is this plot line with Richard Gere's character, in which he goes to see this woman that he used to be mixed up with. Well, I say mixed up with. He used to, I don't know if he was married to her or they were just going out or whatever, but they were very serious. They were considered terrorists together, I guess. Although, as I say, more that is expounded upon in the course of the film, and it makes you question the whole notion of terrorism. But they have personal reasons to be going after the Jackal, to be helping the FBI going after the Jackal. But when he goes to see her, she's made a new life for herself. She's got a husband and children, and I kind of feel bad for the husband. It's got to be said. He knows that she's got something that's gone on in her past, but he doesn't want to know about it. He just accepts that who she is now, and is happy to live in ignorance. But when Richard Gere rocks up at the house, she's like all over him. It's like they're almost they're this close away from kissing. I'm just like, woman, your husband is right there. Come on. It's just like, let the past stay in the past. But yeah, and when they're chatting later, and they're having this kind of intimate conversation, and they're getting really close, and then just in the background, on this kind of waterfront, is the husband, and I'm like, at least have this conversation out of eyesight from your husband. It's almost like you're rubbing it in at this point. Now, I've got to say, I wasn't that keen on the ending, so I mean, spoilers here. If you've not seen this film and you intend on watching it, then skip ahead. But so obviously, there's going to be a final confrontation. Richard Gere's character goes up against the Jackal, and the Jackal seems to get the upper hand. But Richard Gere's character has called in help, unbeknownst to the Jackal. And she just happens to turn up at the right moment. Of course, it is the woman I was just speaking about, the one who he had a relationship with in the past. So it turns out the Jackal is responsible for having killed their unborn child. So the Jackal pulled a job in which essentially Gere's character and this woman ended up being collateral damage, and they ended up losing their baby. So she shoots the Jackal through the neck, he goes down, and then Gere and her have this moment. Now, if it had ended there, if it have left that scene there, there's another scene just after that with Gere and this FBI agent, which I'm still happy is there. But that moment, the confrontation moment, should have ended there, I think. But it doesn't. They do that typical kind of very 90s thing of, they have to come back for one last scare, to quote Scream. And then Gere's character basically just unloads a handgun into him. And I'm just like, it just felt like such a macho moment. It's an action film. We've got to have Gere taking the guy out. It can't be the woman who's done it. And it's just like, the thing is, she was the one who'd carried this baby. She was the one. Yes, it was his child, but she'd gone through this. Carrying the baby, she'd lost it. I felt it had just more emotional weight to it. That she was the one who takes him out, who puts a bullet in his neck, and it goes down. It was unexpected. And it was just emotionally speaking, it was more rewarding for the story. And also, she did it as a way of saving Gere's character. Whereas having the Jackal pull a gun again and then Gere has to unload it, it's just that very 90s macho kind of male hero vanquishing It kind of soured that moment for me, because actually I thought what had just happened before then was a real nice emotional beat and a real nice payoff to everything that we'd just seen. So all in all, I think The Jackal is a pretty decent remake, maybe a bit underrated on the whole. I remember when it came out, a lot of the reviews I read for it were like 1-2 star reviews. But no, it acquits itself okay. It's got some issues, it's not perfect, but it's a good ride for the most part. It has a few nice surprises in it. I still think the original's better. I think if you've not seen either one, I would recommend checking the original out first. I do think that is a better film. Definitely has more of a spy thriller element to it, whereas this goes a bit more for the action. It's a bit more bloated, shall we say. But no, I'd give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's worth checking out, but definitely check out the original first. If you have seen both films, then please let me know which one you think is better. Do you prefer the remake or the original? Comment below and let me know your thoughts. Please do remember to check out the links for the charity that we're trying to raise money for in this alphabet challenge. And until tomorrow, cracking.